World Extermination Radio with your hosts, John Vail and Tanner West.
Welcome to World Extermination Radio. I'm here with Splatterhouse.
You.
And as always, I'm 40 Ounce. And I'm here with the forerunners of WDL. I'm here with Ralphis.
Hey, everybody.
And Humanbones.
Hello, hello.
All right. So we are in week 3 of the winter season for the WDL, so which means we're kind of in the middle of it. And I'm pretty excited to talk about this because the WDL is awesome. It's I watched a couple of the games on some of the Twitch streams, and man, it's so much fun to watch. I just want to get a beer and get some nachos and put it on the living room TV, and just hang out with some guys and cheer these guys on. It's so awesome. It's so much fun to listen to.
Nice.
And so much to watch.
Perfect.
Yeah. And you guys got an awesome setup. I was looking at your website the other day, doomleague.org, and you guys got the whole. You guys got the team names and the rosters and the statistics. It's like ESPN. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely. We're definitely heavily inspired by professional sports leagues. So I'm glad that you feel that way, and I'm sure in a minute we could talk about how that came to be. But yeah. I'll let you continue.
Yeah. So as we know, on Doom World, there's tons of people that play Doom, but I don't think a whole lot of them are involved with the multiplayer side of things. And I kind of wanted to get into that because I think there's kind of this gap between the multiplayer community and single player. There's people that are recording speed runs and mapping and killing monsters and stuff, and not a lot of them know what's going on. I feel like part of the reason is that the WDL especially is very sports oriented, and I don't know if everybody who plays Doom is very involved with sports, and there's a lot of things that translate between actual sports and what's going on in the WDL. So I kind of want to talk about some things. I was listening to WDL Radio the other day. You guys have your own radio station, which is awesome, and I got to learn a little bit about what you guys talk about and learn a little bit about the players and the teams and stuff. And you guys you use some vernacular that I want to talk about. I know, well, for starters, let's say, I know you guys, how's the WDL from start to finish? There's I know you guys do a draft, and then there's the weeks, and then there's playoffs. How does that work?
Well, so I think this is a perfect time to really expand on this question and talk about the history of Doom CTF leagues in general, the WDL, the IDL, which was the father of the WDL, and how we got to where we are. So, basically, 10 years ago, in the winter of 2006, Bones included me and a couple other people. We got in and we created the International Doom League, and that was played on Z-Daemon. And over the years, it kind of evolved in different ways, but one thing was always clear was that it was based off of the type of format that you would find in a sports league where you have one season, and prior to then, there was a lot of clans, a lot of Doom clans, and they would have competition between each other, but the rosters never really changed. So you basically eventually all the talent became consolidated into maybe 2 or 3 big clans. And what the IDL seek to achieve over that time, and it did it in different ways over that time, was each season would be new, and you would always play with new people, or you'd at least have the opportunity to play with new people. And we accomplished that through a draft. And today we still do that, although it's a lot different than the way we did it in the IDL 10 years ago. 2 years ago, we started the WDL. The IDL and the WDL had a split, and they had been playing on different ports, although now they've merged back together, and it's just one league. But the WDL implemented a new draft system. And the way the draft system works is it's pretty simple, but it's kind of intuitive. And we found that this system that we're using now worked better than the old system. The old system was everybody would sign up for the league, and there would maybe be, it didn't matter how many people there were. It could be 30 to 70 people signed up, and there would be captains of each team. There could be 6 teams, there could be 12 teams, 10 teams. However many players signed up would determine how many teams there were. The captains, they would just get a draft order. Like you would either be first to pick, second to pick, third to pick, and then they would just like a sports draft, they would pick players that were available, and that's how they would make their team. So every season there would be new teams. In the WDL, we tried something different, and so far so good. I think we actually switched to what we call an auction draft, and as you said, these leagues are heavily inspired by sports, but also not just the sports themselves, but also fantasy sports. A couple of our people are really into fantasy football, including myself. And a trend in fantasy football that we've seen over the past half decade is that leagues that used to draft like we did in the IDL, these fantasy sports leagues, they started doing this auction draft. And the way it works is each captain gets a set budget. So the way it works in the WDL, this season we had 8 teams. So there's 8 captains, and Bones here is one of them. And you start with $30, and then all the players that signed up, the captains will nominate them, and then they'll bid on them. And then whoever spends the most on that player gets them, but they can't exceed their budget. So we found that it's created some pretty interesting teams that you wouldn't see in the wild, so to speak. Teams made up of different clan mates that normally wouldn't play together, and it's every season the teams are different, so it makes it really exciting. And I think so far it's worked pretty well. That was kind of a long-winded answer. Did I answer your question?
Is it like play money or is it real money?
No, it's play money.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's 30 fake bucks. I don't want to take everybody's money. It wouldn't be right of me to do.
So yeah, that's kind of intriguing. Because I do follow esports. Well, I follow Counter-Strike Global Offensive because I love it. I follow the whole pro scene,
Sure.
and it's kind of unique that you guys have this kind of like random draft system. Because a lot of most teams in esports are pre-assembled. So basically, like, you don't allow any pre-assembled teams to come to the table and play. You just have to submit yourself as free agents and then see what happens from there, or maybe
Yep.
introduce. Okay,
That's exactly it. As a Counter-Strike Go watcher, you would know that Ninjas in Pajamas, they tear up almost every tournament they're in, right? Or at least that was the case a couple of years ago.
yeah, not anymore so much, but
Yeah, but so there's really not an opportunity for that to happen the same way in the WDL. The World Doom League, the way the players are drafted, it's very rare that a team that wins one season will be able to reassemble exactly as they were the next season. There have been a couple rare cases of it happening, but in general, no. Maybe only once did a team come close to even sniffing success like that with 2 teams that were the same, but it rarely happens. And there's a couple other factors that can occur. Just like sports teams in real life, players can be traded between teams, and we've already seen a couple of those this season, particularly one big one this week before we hit the trade deadline, which Bones was involved in. He was one of the teams that traded. So it's interesting. It allows for a lot of crazy stuff to happen. And I think if anyone wants to get a good idea of what these drafts look like, if you go to the World Doom League YouTube page, we actually have the draft that we just did is on there. So you can go back and you can watch and see exactly how the draft process works. And last fall, we actually did a draft in person. We actually got all 6 captains in the same room when we did the draft. So
Cool.
It's really cool to watch. I recommend everybody look into it. One thing that I would say is that it keeps the league fresh, because if a player gets a lot better between seasons, their value is going to go up dramatically. We've already seen players who used to. So there's teams. I guess we should talk about what the format of the league actually is. The WDL is a 3 versus 3 CTF league, and every week you play on one designated map during the regular season, and that's 5 weeks in the beginning of the season where you play one map. You know what map you're going to play. You know what team you're going to play against. You play 3-on-3, but your team has 4 players. So a lot of times a 4th player is somebody that's being groomed to either hop in as like a sub,
A substitute,
or or somebody that's working their way into becoming a starter, so to speak. And we've seen a lot of players that have gone from being those fourths to being stars in this league. In season 3, which was last year, or actually was it last year or it was late 2014? I had drafted a player who was very good at Zandronum. His name is Dranzer, but he was still kind of learning our system. So he was the 4th on our team. He played very well, but now he's a bona fide starter. He went for the most money in the draft. So
nice.
The harder you work and the better you get. The nice thing about this system compared to the straight draft is that it's kind of based on merit. The skill and time that you put in usually translates to you making a team, and I think it works so far. We're on the 7th season for the WDL, so yeah, I think it's working.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean the thing about the draft system, versus a tournament where people can pick who they want to play with and sign up, is that it's so much more competitive. To add on to Ralph's point that he made, we're basically 2 big clans right now, and clans don't really have as much stay as they used to. So
Yeah.
you if you had like a sign up tournament, you'd have a bunch of people from one clan basically playing with each other, and a bunch of people from the other. Whereas now, like he said, it's all mixed together. The competition is higher, and I guess to steal a word from the NFL, parity is alive and well. So
yeah, and you know what else it's really done? And this happened in the IDL too, but I think it's really helped in the WDL has done a really good job of it. It's created a really good culture of players. Anyone that was around multiplayer Doom, I could see why they were put off by it in the mid 2000s. People were really mean, and it was just a rough community to get involved in. But over time, aside from the fact that a lot of us have gotten older and more mature, the culture of the community has been really good. It's been, people go out of their way to help others get better, and they want people to keep coming in. And actually, this year, we think we're seeing gains in this. We're seeing gains in this positive culture that we have around the WDL, because this season we had 44 signups, which was a 57% increase over the last season, and that's pretty impressive. And we've seen players from 6 continents, everyone but Antarctica. If we can find a player there, we'll get them in. And 20 different countries have been represented. So yeah, it's a good culture. I think everyone's really inviting. I think for some people it can be intimidating to get involved, but if you just stay, the hardest part is getting people to just realize it. To make it in this league, you have to put some effort in. You can't just show up, have never played, and expect to be starting in these games. It's just not going to happen. You got to work to get your skill up. But everybody wants to help people get their skill up, so I would recommend everybody stick around. Even if they don't get drafted to a team necessarily, a lot of times you see players will get picked up throughout the season. This season we had a player from Mexico. His name's Solar. He didn't get drafted to a team initially, but by week 2, he'd made it onto a roster, and he's already played in a game. So you just got to stick with it. Yeah. Yep. He's done well.
I think that's cool. From the way that when I first looked at it, when you said, when I actually have the rule book up right now. I was reading about the drafting, and it kind of sounded like goofy to me. I'm like, wait a minute, you just randomly throw everyone together, but now that you explained the whole, free agency and actually buying players, it kind of really, like you said, it mimics the real world of sports, which is I think is really cool. Another topic I wanted to bring up is because I know, at least in Counter Strike, this is a huge problem: cheating. So, what type of, first of all, out of curiosity, have you ever caught cheaters, and what kind of cheating were they doing? Second of all, what kind of cheat protection or anti-cheat measures do you take? Do you have a certain software, or do you have observers, or what?
So everybody in the WDL is required to submit demo recordings of the games that they just played. So that right there is usually deterrent number one in people cheating, because they know that they're going to have their demos out there in the wild for anybody to be able to scrutinize and check. We use Otimex, which has a couple of different things kind of built into it that prevent cheating. Like, you can't do anything like a speed hack or anything like that. As far as aimbots and wall hacks or anything that sort goes, we really, truthfully, don't have much in the way of technology to prevent it. But our community is at a size that we kind of can self-police. And as far as I've ever been able to tell, I don't think we've ever had an instance of anyone cheating in our league, at least not in any sort of successful capacity. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Bones.
No, I think by the time that we started, it's really, they really cracked down on any kind of cheating, at least as far as Z-Daemon goes. And I mean, nowadays, the multiplayer community has shrunk to the size that, it just wouldn't be something that would be viable. Everyone would see. So.
Yeah, I agree. Back in the IDL, there were a couple instances where people did cheat, and they were caught and they were banned forever. So, that's the risk that people run. We have, we haven't had to really suspend or ban a lot of players from our league. I think, in general, like I said, the culture is pretty good. We pretty much sniff out, who's being a good person and who's not, just by paying attention, because we're all so involved in what we're doing. Particularly the captains are on top of everything, so they pretty much know what their teams are doing. And I have nothing but trust and faith in all of our captains, and I know that none of them would ever cheat. So I think that as long as we have a community structured in this sort of way, I think that we'll be fine.
That's cool. That's like self-policing almost,
Yeah. Yep.
Nice. Yeah, it helps that a lot of you guys are friends. Like, I listen to you guys talk on WDL radio, and you guys seem like you get along really well, even when you're not even on the same team. Like, you guys are all like very supportive and helpful, and you guys care about this. So that's the most important thing, and that's a really cool thing. So yeah, you do these drafts, and then you have 5 weeks of games, right? And is there you said there's playoffs after that?
Yeah. Okay. So let me explain. I'll lay out for everybody how a season typically goes.
Yeah.
So typically about a month before we start playing, we open sign-ups, and that's when everybody comes and signs up. Then about a week before the first week of play, we do the draft. And then after the draft, everybody knows what teams they're on. People that didn't make teams know that, okay, like, I can kind of see what teams maybe I could get on if I just work a little harder and maybe help them practice. And then they go into week one, and then all the teams play. And they do that for 5 different weeks. There's 8 teams, and each team this season will play 5 of the other teams. So they won't meet every single team, but they'll play 5. And then once we reach the end of week 5, we have a point system. The teams can earn points in the game. So a game is a best of 3 on a certain map. So for instance, this week it's on a core CTF map made by Alex Maps called Towering Gardens. It's map 18 in the WDL WOD, and they're going to play this map at least two rounds, 2 10-minute rounds. And if it goes to 3 rounds, then both teams will get a point. But if a team wins in 2 rounds, they'll get the full points for the game, which is kind of based off of the inspiration that I took for that was based off of the NHL and also the Major League Soccer as well. They both have point systems related to how teams do in games, whereas in football or baseball or basketball, you just win the game and that's it. But I started to think that wasn't fair, and I floated this out to other people in the league, And this was a difference that the World Doom League had from the IDL at the time. Teams pretty much got nothing for playing a hard 30-minute game and just losing by one flag. At least now they get a point. So at the end of the 5 weeks, all the points are added up. If you go to doomleague.org right now, you'll see at the top, it's the first column next to the team names, the current point standings. The top 6 teams are going to make the playoffs. And then they're going to be put into brackets, and then they're just going to go through best of 5 games, and we'll find out who the champion is. And it'll be very interesting to see. It always is. Every single playoff is very exciting.
Yeah, capture the flag's a really cool like strategic type of game. Like I do see similarities in the way it's kind of like hockey or like soccer or football for our non-American people.
Yeah. Yep.
It's not like something like football or basketball where at the end of a game like each team has like 90 points. It's like if it's a really close game, there'll be no scores at all. So like it, but
Right.
that doesn't necessarily
Exactly.
mean that the players are bad or anything. It's just a very tight game. I wanted to talk about some of the vernacular you use. Like obviously there's frags, which just means killing the other players, and flags and caps, which means capturing the other flag. I was listening to you guys, and you say O, D, and mid a lot. When I think you're talking about positions, right?
Yes, we are.
So O means offense, right? And D is
Yep,
defense.
yes.
And okay, so what does that mean specifically? Like let's say you had so you have 3 players, and so what would be like your ideal defense player? Like what does that mean?
You take suspense.
Well, I guess the way that you would set up, in a game, typically you would think you'd have one person trying to capture the flags. That'd be offense. You'd have somebody in the middle who is, someone that can help either the person trying to score flags or the person trying to defend your flag. And, you've got the defender who's protecting the flag. So, I mean, there's so many different ways that you can set up depending on what map you're playing, depending on who you're playing, how the other team is playing. But I guess if you wanted to talk about like a defender specifically, typically those players are the ones that have probably the best aim, being able to kill people really well, and just probably anticipating what other players are doing, being able to outsmart people, know what's going to come in the future, So typically the defenders are very difficult to get by. You wouldn't put somebody back there that maybe doesn't have the greatest reaction time, or and a lot of it is also placement of where you're putting yourself on the map to defend your flag against someone running towards you. So there's so many different variables that come into it.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. I think players that you're going to find excelling at certain positions, you can see them in other game modes where they excel as well. For instance, personally, I think that really high-level duel players, one-on-one players, are typically the best at those sort of defensive positions, because by the time your O or your runner, however you want to call them, the person just trying to capture the flag gets into their base and has to fight that defender, it basically becomes a mini duel game, which is, can the runner has to outduel the defender not only once usually, but usually at least twice, because they'll respawn and have to fight them again on the way out of the base. So I think the duelers excel at those sorts of positions, whereas certain people that are really great at movement, and particularly in the last couple of years, some players have gotten really good at the rocket jumping with the free look. This season, ABC has just been a monster at doing that sort of stuff, and ABC would not really excel at a defensive position, but when he's playing offense, he's playing he's just out of this world. So I think that those are very important positions. Personally, I think that mid, as you called it, mid is kind of a flexible position where there's not really necessarily a defined thing that a mid has to do. I think everyone has kind of a different thought on what they do. Personally, for me, I think that the mid almost acts as the quarterback, so to speak. They have to be keeping track of everything on the field at once. So they have to be knowing and telling their defender who's coming in, where they're coming from. They have to be trying to support their runner coming out and going into the base. Also, maybe sometimes poking in for their own run or dropping back for a defense. So the mid has to be really flexible and versatile. But that's just in my opinion. I've seen different teams play different ways, and I think that's another cool part of our draft system is that every team has an opportunity to build their team in the way that they think is going to be most successful. So you might find a team that is really hard defense, and their mid guy is going to be locked down. He's never going to go past the middle of the map. He's always going to be helping their guy in the back. But you might have another team, like a lot of teams I've had in the past, where their mid is basically a second runner, and you're just pounding as much as possible. So you see all sorts of different strategies. It's interesting to see how they match up against other teams, and one team might not necessarily ever keep that same strategy through the whole season. It changes, and that's one cool thing about our system with our maps. We change the map every week, so teams have to be versatile on a number of different fields. They can't just be good at the frag map because there's going to be a really team-centric map in the middle of the season, or a map that favors runners, or a map that favors defenders.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it depends how you set your team up.
Yeah, and I think if you look back to 10 years ago, everyone kind of had a set position. You go into, so let's say you're a captain, you go into the draft. For me, I always played defense, so I was looking to draft a runner and somebody that could support both of us. Nowadays, I think everyone's kind of turned into players that can play any position depending on the map that you play. So everyone's become a lot more versatile. So I think that also ups the competition as well. So it's interesting. Depending on the map that you play, anyone can play any position. So in that sense, it's kind of, you're not sure really what's going to happen, which adds to the excitement as well.
Well, to piggyback your point, actually, I think you're totally correct. And I think that part of that evolution of the player having to kind of be a jack of all trades in a lot of instances is that the types of maps that we play now, 10 years later, are so much different than what we played 10 years ago. 10 years ago, there was only a couple map packs. A lot of the maps were the same style of just, the Z-Game and CTF style maps of just straight ahead, just grinding it out and mulching each other in the middle. But over time, we've seen a lot of really vertical maps, which have played to people to do rocket jumps. We've seen maps with a lot of different entrances and exits, which has helped runners be able to, defenders have to get a lot better to deal with that. You see maps where there will be a megasphere in the middle that'll respawn every 30 seconds. And that becomes the entire strategy of the whole map, which is what team can control that megasphere, because you're getting 200 armor and 200 health. So, every 30 seconds you see 6 guys from both teams in the middle just trying to grab that, megasphere. So the maps that we play, I think, are a huge part of not only how much better our players have gotten, but the high quality of our league, really. Because, we could trot out there 5 grind maps and, some people are going to like it, but it's not going to be as exciting. It's not going to be as fun. Teams aren't going to have to work as hard. Teams have to work harder to win now. They have to. You cannot just, for most weeks, you cannot just show up to a game without practice and win in this league. It's nearly impossible.
So let me ask you, what maps do you guys use? Do you guys design the maps for your thing? Do you take community, suggestions, or do you kind of keep like a standard map pack, maybe switch it up every now and then? How does that work?
So that's a great question.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, I'll grab it first. So, it's the last thing that you just said. We basically have a map pack. We've been doing this for a long time, since the IDL. Every year we would put out a map pack with 32 maps, and every year we change it. So right now we have 3 seasons a year. So we're in the first season of this year, winter, and then we're going to have a summer and a fall season. These 3 seasons are going to use this WDL 2017 map pack. We put about 8 new maps in this year, so the turnover's there. This season has 2 new maps that have never been played before. It's not like CS:GO, or a game where there's a standard maps that people play forever, or even to speak to Doom. There's a couple dual maps that people have just played forever, and they're going to play them forever. not that we don't have maps that will never leave the pack. There are maps in there that will never ever leave the pack, but new stuff is important because it shows the teams are able to learn and able to evolve and do what they need to do to win. Whereas if you just keep playing the same maps, you could probably draft a team of veterans and just go in and say, okay, well, you're mid and you're O and I'm D, because those positions after 10 years on that map are established. Everybody knows what those positions should be. But when you're playing these new maps, people don't know yet. So, and that's part of the excitement, I think.
Yeah, it shakes things
and
up.
we don't. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying it shakes things up. It's cool.
Yeah, and we pick maps from a ton of different WODs. We're not really looking for just one or two. We've got maps from ZDCTF. We got from several of the 32 and 24s. There's other WODs as well. Velocity CTF has been in. Some maps from that WOD have been in. So it's really a wide variety. We're looking for, and I think that's a good way to bridge sort of the single player community and the multiplayer community. 32 and 24 is kind of a lot of people from Doom World contribute to that, and so they've been able to every few years they have a CTF WOD that comes out, and we look at every single map in that WOD, and if we think they're good, we'll throw them in and we'll play them. And a lot of those maps, I think a lot of those maps have been my personal favorites from those WODs, and a lot of those people don't even play Capture the Flag. So it's just been really interesting to see, like Ralph was saying, how you go from the very simple CTF maps that came out like 13 years ago, whenever CTF first came out on Z-Daemon, to now the newest 32 and 24. So it's been really exciting, and you're never gonna find like a regular season. So I guess what we do in the regular season is there's 5 weeks, and each week we play a different map. So you kind of get this schedule that's balanced. Maybe one week you might have a frag heavy map, or 1 week you might have a map that's really tough to defend, and teams are going to score 5 flags and 4 flags against each other, and it's just complete chaos. So having a wide variety of maps in that sense is a really, really cool thing. And we make it a point to include as many different maps as we can throughout the year that we're using that particular WOD.
Mm-hmm. That's good to hear that you guys are good, that you're like interested in shaking things up, because I was always under the impression that I had a conversation with somebody once about multiplayer maps and how there doesn't seem to be as many like deathmatch maps and other multiplayer types of maps before, or as much anymore. And I think I thought part of the reason, because people are still playing like Dwango and Green War and having duels on those, and I think it's because people like to master those levels, and there's really not as much reason to play, as opposed to like single player. You don't want to play the same single player maps over and over again because the monsters are always in the same place. But when you play something like Green War, it all depends on the player that you're playing. So I always thought that you guys would be more interested in just picking some of like really good maps and just sticking with them. But it's cool to hear that you guys are interested in having more maps. So do you guys have like do you guys feel like you have any shortage of maps to pick from? Would you guys like more maps, more CTF maps?
I'm always in favor of more CTF maps.
Yeah, I mean, basically, particularly the 32 and 24 crew. I love those guys. Like they do such good work, and even though, I mean, truthfully, it's impossible that we could bring that many maps from there into what we're doing, just because of we already have a certain amount of maps that we know that we're going to keep, but we're always looking for new maps that are great. And when those WODs come out, it's kind of like Christmas for us, because we get to get everybody together and go through this huge WOD of all these new maps that we never played before. And this season, we actually grabbed. We had originally narrowed it down to about 7 maps from the new 32 and 24, and we ended up settling with 3 maps from it that we pulled out for this year. And there were actually a couple other maps too that we put in from other sources, but it's great when people make new stuff. I would say to mappers, just do your best to make something fun. Don't overthink it, because a lot of the best maps are very simple, and that the mappers didn't overthink what they were doing. And don't make it just to be in the WDL or you just make it to be a fun map, and nature will take its course on its own if it is. And I think we see that all the time when we do the WOD every year. Yep, I love it when new maps come out.
See, I think it's cool too because I'm sure like the original idea behind like Doom Deathmatch was kind of like run and gun, kill each other real fast pace. But I personally, I've played a minimal amount of multiplayer Doom, but when I do play, and when this goes for other Quake style or fast paced arcade style first person shooter games multiplayer wise, I always play Capture the Flag because I feel like it's so cool because it's like it adds that extra like strategic implement. I'm sorry, strategic element. And I think it's cool too that you're talking about how different people have different positions on the map. That's really like organized. Again, I hate to keep comparing it to other games, but like it reminds me of Counter-Strike because it's all strategy. You have different players that have different roles. You make call outs when you see people. Like that's really cool. And like, I didn't expect it to be that I guess competitive and involved. I figured you guys would kind of just maybe call stuff out when you see people coming toward the flag or whatever. It's so fast paced. It's kind of, I imagine it would be hard to stay on top of all the call outs, but the fact that you have kind of like different positions, different people that have different positions and play different parts of the map, I think that's really awesome.
Well, it definitely was not as evolved when we first started. I mean, right now, you can't even, for us, we can't even imagine playing a game at a serious competitive level without being, on TeamSpeak or Discord or what have you.
Oh, definitely.
Being able to call out to people and tell them where you are, it's become more than vital to being able to play. But when we first started, I don't think we had any of that for the first few seasons of the IDL. So, as far as the strategy goes and like changing positions mid-game and trying to help somebody, it was all typed in like team chat. So
spamming binds,
spamming
chat binds,
so it's been really interesting to see how that's evolved because now it's impossible to play at the level that we're playing without that kind of communication.
Agreed. And that goes even beyond just the games themselves. I would say for anybody that is really looking to kind of get involved in this sort of stuff and learn and play with new people, I think that really throwing yourself in is one of the biggest parts of it. And I think in 2017 voice chat is part of that. You can't really just get by on text anymore, not just in the games, but it's a part of the reason why we're all so friendly and it's a good culture is because a lot of us spend a lot of time talking to each other, jabbing and jawing at each other and shit talking on TeamSpeak. And and I think that new players that are looking for opportunities that haven't really had that opportunity yet, but have taken the moves to kind of get themselves integrated. Like for this off season, for instance, we had a new player come in. I don't even know if he had played Doom before, but he found us and his name was Spooky was his handle. And he jumped on TeamSpeak and he kind of just integrated himself right in with the conversation, and everybody was happy to help him. And I think that's a really huge part of it because not only do teams want to be able to communicate easily, but it kind of puts a voice to the letters,
Yeah.
And
talking
for
to
lack
people,
of a physical realm, that's a big part of it, I think.
Yeah, and like
it's funny because he's actually watching right now.
Yeah, like talking to people, it just makes
nice.
it more. It makes it more human, Like, cause when you're talking through text, like things can get misinterpreted, and like, you see the forums. There's like flame wars all the fucking time. Like people are just like deliberately misunderstanding each other and finding reasons to get mad.
Mm-hmm.
But like when you talk to people, like it feels more human. Like I love doing these like podcasts because like I'm learning about people at like on a more human level and understanding like who they are and what they're trying to say and things like that. It just makes sense to like be able to talk to each other instead of
being able to hear somebody's voice and just the tone of their voice. You can hear if someone's mad or if they're just smiling, or you can just hear it in the way they're talking. So I think it's important. I think that the vocal part of it is important, definitely. And that's actually one thing I've liked about. I'm going to kick it back to you in a second, Bones. Like one thing I really liked about the direction that the WDL radio shows have gone. You guys are using webcams now, and I think that even adds a more interesting human element to it. And you can't use that in game, but I definitely like it. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, to touch on WDL Radio, the way that the whole video thing started was we met in person, and it just felt a lot more personal, and I just came up with this idea, and now we all get to look at each other, and it just, I think, like you said, it makes it so much more fun. But I think we can all people that have been in the IDL and the WDL. For me, I look back at the IDL and I have some good memories of that, but I would say that overall my experience in the WDL has been much more fun, and I think it's because of the way that the community became so much closer. There was so much animosity in the IDL. I think maybe because we were still so close to the whole clan scene thing, and people were getting integrated with each other, but there were still some rivalries there, and as far as welcoming new players in, I think it was a lot harsher than it is now. So I just think overall, we've reached a point where, we're all friends. We just want to play, like, when it comes time to playing each other, we're going to kick each other's asses. But, we're all friends and we're all welcoming of new people. So I've really enjoyed that sort of trend in the last 2 to 3 years of just friendliness and helpfulness, and but at the end of the day, like I said, we're gonna kick each other's asses. So
yeah, I agree. That actually reminds me. A couple of months ago, there was a because even though we're on Otomex and we run the WDL, we do keep our finger on the pulse of all these other different areas: Doom World, Xanderonum, Zdoom. I was on the Xanderonum forums and they were talking about starting another league there, and somebody had mentioned the WDL, and they said, I kind of missed the IDL where like it was cutthroat. Like the WDL is cool, but it's basically just like a group of guys getting together, playing like a pickup game, and then going out and having beers afterwards. And I agree that we could probably go out and have beers afterwards, but I think that everybody in our league is definitely in it to win it. There's nobody that shows up to a game like okay, I guess I'll just try to win. Maybe, I don't know. Like everyone wants to win, but everybody's cool afterwards, and I think that's a really important part of what we're doing. Definitely.
I mean, if you're playing Doom multiplayer competitively, if you have that much passion for the game of Doom to even do that in the first place, I'm sure you're going to be passionate about trying to win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just even now in 2017, there's still certain, and you'll see this on Doom World, you'll see this everywhere. Any internet community, there's little sections of communities that people just want to kind of fight and cause shit. And I think that our section, we used to kind of embrace it, but I think now we just kind of grown out of it, and we just like to have fun. And I think that pretty much most people involved with us do. And if they don't, like, please get in touch with me and let me know like what we can do to make it more fun, I guess.
Well, some of us have our moments, myself included. But for the most part, yes, we've reached a nice civil level. So
yeah,
civility.
Yeah.
Also, it probably helps that there's no like young teenagers. I mean, there probably are, but I mean, I'm sure there's no okay, because I mean, a lot of Doom is an older game, so like automatically it's going to be, you're going to have more people with a little greater age range, I guess, or maybe just like a higher age group, or that's what I would guess anyway.
What is the age discrepancies? Yeah. What's the youngest players compared to the oldest?
The youngest. Who's our youngest player, Bones?
Well, I mean, it used to be me, but I don't know who it is now.
How old are you?
Well, DS is younger than you now.
Well, I'm 24. So, like, when the IDL started, I was 14, 15.
Yeah, no. We have players in their teens, and we have a couple in their 30s, and I'll be there shortly.
Yeah.
So, but I would say generally, probably like the average age of our players floating around like 23, maybe 24.
Yeah.
Ish. Yeah. I mean, we have some teens, we have some 30s, but mostly in the 20s. mostly younger 20s, I would say.
That's cool. It's cool that
Which is interesting considering the age of the game, you know?
Yeah, it's cool that there's diversity
Yeah.
considering the age of the game. That's awesome.
We probably have more older people, but arthritis takes hold and they can't play anymore.
Humanbones, you mentioned something about like, well, for the most part, you guys are mostly pretty civil, but it's cool that you guys. I'm looking at like the team names right now, and I just want to read these off because these are awesome. There's the Superchargers, the Techno Vikings, the Dream Team, Regulators, Giant Pea Shooters, Sexual Panthers, High Friction Men, and Hurt You Plenty. That's hilarious. I love all these names.
Yeah.
Well,
so
you know,
are there like main teams? Like, are there like, do you guys have like teams that are like analogous to like, you know, like the New York Giants, like, and like, or like the Bengals, or, you know, like do you have like favorite teams or anything, or are these mostly like pretty evened out?
well, it depends because, you know, every season, I guess the best way to describe it is, you know, captains get to name their teams. So for myself, I've been using the Sexual Panthers for like, I don't know, 8 to 9 years now. And so, you know, same with Ralph. Ralph has been the Superchargers. I mean, there's certain teams that you associate with people. But I mean, obviously my favorite team is the Sexual Panthers, but you know, every year there's a few different names that pop out there. But what we started to do back in the IDL days was because everyone could just name their team whatever they wanted, and then it kind of became a little bit more, I guess you could say, like serious, a little bit more organized, and we modeled the team names after NFL teams. So, you know, Superchargers, Sexual Panthers, Techno Vikings, and now, I mean, you can name your team anything you want within a reason. Yeah, Berserker Packers. That was my initial team.
That was a good one.
It was.
I'd like to see that come back, yeah.
Yeah. And so now, I mean, like I said, you just associate certain captains with the name of their team. So I don't know. I mean, as far as a favorite goes, I mean, me and Ralph have our battles, you know, Suck versus SXP. And
yeah, I would say that there's definite teams that, I mean, without tooting my own horn, I think that like the Superchargers, my own team, is one of them where like people look at that and are like, okay, like they're going to be like a pretty good team usually. If that's what you mean.
Yeah, they're like the longest lasting, I guess, right? Because you've kept that same name for such a long time, so I guess people like kind of know that name when they see it.
Yeah, I've been using that one since 2010. So, wow, oh my God, I'm old.
I've been using mine longer.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think some of them, you look at them and they're marquee names. They're regulators for our league. I mean, they've been great every season that their captain, Jay Warrior, has captained them. So, yeah, there's definitely some marquee teams in here. This season we have 3 new teams, some new ones we haven't really seen. The Techno Vikings, High Friction Men, Hurt You Plenty are all new captains, rookie first-time captains. So this is their chance to kind of start building their own legacy. I mean, there's other teams that have gone by the wayside over the years. So I would say at least like the 5 of them that are up there that have been around for years, the Superchargers, the Dream Team, Regulators, Giant Pea Shooters, and Sexual Panthers, they're probably like the marquee names right now, I would say.
Pretty awesome.
If I had to go out on a limb. Yeah.
Hey, so I know, you know, we're kind of past this topic now, but I just wanted to ask you real quick. Spooky typed in chat. He wants to know who's the oldest WDL player right now.
Is that Stab? Could be Do, Stab, or Dev, I would say.
How old are they?
Dev's not much older than me.
Okay.
Right?
So they're probably, I'm not sure exactly how old they are, but, you know, maybe like 32.
Yeah, they're probably like, early 30s. I don't think there's anyone older, is there?
Not playing in the WDL.
Yeah. Have we had anyone older?
I don't think so. No, I think maybe the motor skills just diminished at a certain point.
Well, I'm trying to get whatever I can out of mine before they're gone. Yeah, I would say like probably like 32 or 33, floating around there somewhere. I think ABC might be our youngest right now at 18-ish. I don't actually know how old he is, but everyone always says he's about that age.
Okay. So that's a little less extreme than I had initially thought.
What do you mean? You think we were like 50?
No. I mean, I know you guys are younger.
Yeah.
I know at least Ralphis is. I mean, but yeah, I figured it would be right around between like 20 and 30. You know, so
Yeah,
it's
about
it's
where
not.
we're at.
Yeah, it's not too surprising to me. It's what I expected. You know, 18
Yeah.
too for the youngest player is not. It's not at all odd. But then again, I mean, it could be younger. I feel like if it was younger, I wouldn't even bat an eye because me and John started playing custom mods when we were like 12, 13. So
Yeah, same. I started when I was like 8, 9. So
Yeah. Somebody made me
Yeah.
a moderator on the ZDM forums when I was 11, so if that gives you any
Nice.
indication. Yeah,
that's awesome.
it wasn't really, but yeah.
So you said you said like way earlier that like you've had a 50%, 57% increase in players. That's awesome. What would you say? Like, what advice would you give for people that want to get into playing the WDL? Because I'm sure there's so many good players out there already, and I think like I don't know that maybe they just don't know how to get involved, or maybe they're just not sure how to make themselves exposed. So like, what kind of suggestions would you give to kind of build awareness for themselves and like get involved?
Yeah, so, probably the best way to get in touch with us, we have our own IRC channel. It's WDL on quakenet.org. And so what we do is we play what we call private CTF, which is, a passworded server. Everyone jumps in, and we just kind of have these random captains that are assigned to like red and blue team, and they go back and forth, and they pick who they want to play with, and then they pick a random map, and that's kind of like, practice or something like that. And that's probably the best way for people to get involved. Ralph has brought up Spooky, so Spooky came in. He got into private CTF, and people picked him, and he was playing with everyone. So
should we explain what that is? Private CTF?
I tried to,
yeah,
but I think you can do a better job.
Okay. I'm sorry if I missed you saying it. Someone had walked in the door here. Real quick, private CTF. Basically, imagine a game of pickup dodgeball or stickball at the park as a kid. You all go into a server. You have 2 team captains that get randomly picked every round, and then they just select players to play on the team, and then the teams change every single round. So it's kind of like a mini version of what we do with the league. It's a good way to introduce yourself, learn how to play, and not only get better but to meet everybody. And if you want to play that, just come visit us, and we will tell you how to get started.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
And
maybe I'll check that out. You know what I mean? See what's going on with maybe not join the league until I brush up on my skills, but
yeah, it might be fun to just
sure.
kind of like
I
join and fuck
recommend it.
around a little
I'd
bit.
love to see both of you guys stop by and play with us. We've had a couple Doom World guys stop by, and if I'm considering you Doom World guys, but like Fonz from Doom World had stopped by recently, and he entered the WDL. He didn't make a team, but he did play private CTF, and he's been involved in a certain capacity. So yeah, definitely, stop by, try it out a couple times. If you like it, stick around. I think you'd like it.
For sure.
Yeah. And do you, when you do these private CTFs, you use the WDL map pack?
Yes, we use our map pack. We use the map pack that we use during the year in the season so that everybody can learn. That's also kind of a testing ground to see how the maps play before we actually deploy them into the schedule too. So it kind of works for that. Okay. We play on our own. We call it private CTF because we password lock the server, because otherwise people will join, not understand the rules, and they'll join mid-game and not understand what's going on. But it's not exclusion CTF. We don't want to exclude people. We just have to keep it locked so that people that don't understand don't come in and mess up what's going on.
Yeah, like getting the password is kind of like an agreement that you're going to play by the rules, right?
Basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, yep.
Where can people get the WDL map pack? Is there a download link for that? Is it like on doomleague.org?
So it on doomleague.org we have a WAD repository that we use for our servers, and it is wads.doomleague.org. Any WAD that we use on our servers or have used can be found in there. So that includes
Okay.
this year's WAD. But I think that it's been mirrored a couple other places since. Fun Crusher, I think, hosts as well. So for anyone using the multiplayer launchers, you should be able to find it pretty easy with GetWAD. If not,
Okay.
like I said, it's right there at wads.doomleague.org. That also has dual map pack that is commonly used nowadays on at least on Otomex.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I was looking for the WDL, the most recent map pack, and I couldn't find it anywhere. I'm glad you mentioned that, so I'll keep that in mind.
Yep, we'll have to make it more visible.
Yeah. Speaking of making it more visible, like what can we do to give the Doom League? Because people can't get involved right now because you guys are like in the middle of the season, but it's awesome just as a spectator sport. So what can we do to like kind of like get this more exposure? Because people have to watch this. It's so much fun. It's really exciting just to watch and to listen, and especially because you guys do commentary on these streams. You can kind of talk people into it and like talk about what's going on in the game so people can kind of follow what's going on. And yeah, so what can we do? Like, do you need like more like exposure? Like, do you want us to like share things on Facebook or like maybe post some like news threads on Doomworld or something when there's new games or?
Well, that's definitely a good idea. One thing we talked about tonight, a problem we have right now, and I'll acknowledge it, is that a lot of our streams are done by our players, and they go to their individual Twitch streams. And one thing I'd like to see us do in the near future here is consolidate that all to our YouTube channel. Another thing I think would work outside of, like you said, advertising it in other areas of the community, the larger community, is spectators that are into it. We have a couple right now that have shown up that are really into it. I think that helps the allure, because those that, even if you don't like think that you can play that great, but you're really into watching it, like it really helps to have that sort of excitement around it, where there's people outside that aren't actually attached to any teams that can make comments or observations about certain teams or players, kind of just like real sports. So Extermination Radio, if you guys checked out a game once in a while on your stream, it'll be good. I think so.
Yeah, I think
sure.
one thing I've noticed too is whenever we have we have the finals each season, I see a lot of people that join the server that don't play in the league. They aren't really involved in the season, but they always seem to know when the finals games are. So, I mean, it's definitely out there, but like Ralph said, a lot of our streams are done by players, so that's why there's a couple different stream Twitch pages that go on, because Demon Sphere could stream one game, but he can't stream his own. So definitely people watching the game, getting involved, maybe outside streamers that really just up the excitement, because we do limit the amount of people that can watch the game in the server. So the streams really are the best way, and the commentary is great sometimes too. I mean, everyone's involved there. So
yeah, I'd love to actually be on the server, but I understand you guys gotta like keep the ping down when there's so many players. You guys should like sell tickets for like people who can join the server. That'd be awesome.
Well, if anyone wants to purchase some, please get in touch.
Ralph is always collecting money from people for any reason.
Yeah, no, it's definitely good. We've had a couple other things that we've experimented with in the past, and actually, you spoke about our website earlier. We actually are going to be probably next season, because we didn't want to do it in the middle of this season while we're going, but we actually redid our website from the ground up, and that was almost entirely thanks to Tony, who has been great with his work so far. So the new website's going to have a lot newer and different features that are going to probably make things better for a lot of what we've talked about tonight. But there's a lot of opportunities for us to do some other cool things. Like the other day, somebody talked about a pick'em league, and for anyone who doesn't know what a pick'em league is, say for the NFL, for football, every week you don't have to play, you would guess what teams are going to win each week. And that would be kind of cool for us to do, for spectators to say, all right, well, I think these teams are going to win, and it would be able to engage people that aren't necessarily going to play in games in other ways. That's one thing we'd like to do. We'd like to make it more accessible to others, not only as players, but to anybody that's interested in this sort of esport thing. Because, the legacy of our leagues goes back, 10 years, where a lot of games that are out there now doing the esport thing on ESPN, lucky for them that they're playing new games. But we kind of took a different path in the beginning to kind of model it after, professional sports every season. So I think it would be interesting to see if people would be interested in following it in that sort of way with maybe, fantasy CTF sport or, the Pick'em League or what they call a suicide league where like you pick one team to not lose and then you can't use them again. So there's a lot of different opportunities for us to do cool things for different people in the community, and I'd like to see us roll them out over the next year, hopefully.
Yeah, that would be super awesome. So should we just I don't know, do you guys want to wrap this up? I don't know, unless there's some other things you want to cover real quick. Because I know it's getting kind of late. I know Splatterhouse, you trying to get out of here? I don't want to hold you up or anything.
No, it's fine. I have some homework to do, but if you guys have anything else you want to throw in there, feel free.
Well, I mean, I would just say, anybody that's listening to this probably has some sort of little amount of interest somewhat in, Doom CTF, unless you just happen to just listen to the radio every week. And I would say to anyone that hasn't played with us before, or anyone that's interested in maybe, dipping their toes in the water and seeing what's up before they get, jump in, come contact us and we'll try and shepherd you in the right path. Also, a couple other things that I just wanted to touch on. Aside from trying to get other people outside of, actually players involved, one thing other than getting CTF players involved is that in the near future, we've been looking at bringing back our dual league. Now, we're not sure how we're going to do that exactly, but I've been talking with Demon Sphere about it, and Demon Sphere, for anyone that doesn't know, is probably the greatest dueler on the planet right now. So we'd like to get the dual league going again, and maybe in between the WDL seasons. One thing we'd really like to do is keep activity high throughout the year. That's why we added the third season last year. It was the first time ever that we had 3 seasons in a year instead of 2, because a lot of times what would happen is in that fall and winter break, so many people would disappear. So we want to keep people engaged year round and keep everybody involved and be able to help newer players that want to keep getting better so that they don't have to wait another whole 5 months to get another shot at it. They just keep going. So anybody that's interested in any of these things that I just talked about, come hang out with us. And we're generally pretty friendly, most of us. And just come check us out, doomleague.org or WDL on irc.quakenet.org.
Yeah. If you're someone who's interested in playing, or you're not interested in playing, there are streams available, so you can watch the games. You can kind of get involved that way. There's also demo recordings of each player that are available within the specific forum on the Doom League forums. But if you come around, we can, like Ralph said, point you in the right direction. And even if you don't want to play, I think you'd be quite surprised if you're somebody that doesn't really play Doom competitively, to see just how quick and fast-paced and just all around insane that it is to be a part of a game like this. So I really think that's one of the best ways to get yourself interested and motivated. And then our great community kind of piggybacks off that. So we'd love to have anybody new that wants to come around.
Can I make one more plea for a certain sect of players?
Yeah,
sure.
Speedrunners, please. I want speedrunners to try out CTF, because a lot of our players that have gotten good at speedrunning, like Do and Demon Sphere and other guys like that, I think there's a lot of translatable skills there. So come check it out.
Yeah, definitely. I love how inviting you guys are. Because I actually when I first heard about like the IDL and WDL and all that stuff, I always thought it was like, in my head, I always thought it was like kind of like a really exclusive club. Like you had to be like really top tier to be in there. But I'm glad that you guys are being like more receptive and open to like newer players too. And
definitely.
It's the only way for competitive CTF to survive in 2017. You know, it can't be exclusive at all.
Yeah, you don't have to be top tier to play. You just have to be top tier to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
But I agree. It's you know, we try our best to help new people that want to play and want to learn, and you know, and it's paying dividends. Like I said, you know, we had a 50% increase in players signed up this season. Some of them brand new, we've never even seen before. So it's working, I think, slowly. Which any sort of growth in our, you know, corner of the community is always very nice to see. After many years of decline, it's nice to see growth.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks so much, guys, for being on the show, Ralphis and Humanbones. It was awesome having you here. And
thank you
guys so
very much.
Yeah,
thanks for having us. It was great.
I love talking about the WDL. I love these organized events. Like I love like the Thursday night Frag Fest, and I love speed mapping compilations and all that kind of stuff. Everything that's like organized, it's my favorite, and I love how organized this is. So if you guys are interested in the WDL, get in contact with them. You check out these guys on WDL on their IRC channel, their WDL IRC channel on irc.quakenet.org. And make sure you subscribe to their YouTube channel. That's the World Doom League YouTube channel. And when they get to it, they'll check out their Twitch streams. And they got a game tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. That's the Dream Team versus the Techno Vikings. And that should be pretty exciting.
And we actually had a reschedule that I have to adjust. I just didn't adjust that schedule because we were doing this. But there's actually a game Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So anybody that wants to come check out a game, you have an option every single day of the week coming up. That Regulators versus Sexual Panthers game is going to be rescheduled to Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern. So there's a lot of opportunities to check out what's going on. Day games, night games. You know, come check it out. It's fun, and maybe you'll get into it.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm definitely going to check out that match on Twitch.
Yeah, I'm going to watch it. I'll definitely be there. So, yeah, check these guys out. And thank you guys for being on the show. And we're probably going to do...
Thank you.
I don't know. We've been talking to some people to talk to on WXR this weekend. I don't know. Everything's kind of up in the air right now. So if anybody's listening who wants to be on the show, give us a call. We'll definitely have you on the show. Send me a private message on Doom World. And once again, thank you guys, Ralphis and Humanbones, for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks you guys so much.
All right, we'll see you guys later. Take care, Space Marines.
All right. Shout out to Enfuego.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, one more thing. Every Friday night, ODMX Friday Night Show. It's a good way to meet a lot of the people that we play with. Bones, that's your event. I don't know if you want to plug that real quick.
Yeah, sure. I mean, every week we just run. I mean, it's so far it's been deathmatch, but it's really just a community event. You know, like you were talking about Friday Night Frag Fest. This is ODMX Friday Nitro. So different game modes, different maps, different WODs, different players. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely going to help try and pump up multiplayer because we need more people into that.
Thanks again, guys. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
WDL.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much. Have a great night. And thank you to all our viewers.